It's time for another spooky adventure with haunted history. Hello, once again. This is Jonathan Murr with the Hometown Historian channel, and we are telling our last haunted history tale for the year. We'll start up again probably in February. So this one's sort of a strange one. It's about a woman named Midnight Mary, and there's actually, if you look it up, there's several Midnight Marys. There's a pretty good one up in Connecticut, I think New Haven, Connecticut as well. This one takes place. It's near a town. I think it's in like near Bristol, Pennsylvania. It's just north of Philadelphia, and it's along a road called Bordentown Road. And this has to do with like a ghostly hitchhiker. So the version of the story, the sort of the urban legend one, is back in the mid 1930s, it'd be 1935. A young woman was killed in a horrific car accident while coming back from prom. So the story goes that she and her date were driving down Bordentown Road, which is a pretty remote road, and either she was driving, which some say and others say it was her date. They lost control of the vehicle and crashed it into the lake, and this is Van Sciver Lake. They found the boy's body, but the girl's body was never recovered. And then ever since that tragic night, her spirit has been seen either floating or gliding along Bordentown Road, hitchhiking in a sopping wet pink prom dress. Now, here's the rest of the story. One of the biggest revelations is that Mary is probably not her real name. In fact, if you look back in the records, it was a woman named Gertrude Louise Spring. And Miss Spring and her boyfriend were killed in a car accident on Bordentown Road in 1935. And there's also a couple of other differences. One is apparently her boyfriend apparently was William Bagley, and she was actually not a teen, and she was actually around 24 years old, or 26 years old, I'm sorry, and actually crashed into a tree. They were returning home from, I guess they were at a horse show in Devon, and so she was probably dressed in this pink gown like they say, so that part is, when they see this spirit, is probably true. But she actually, he was killed instantly in the accident, I guess was thrown from the vehicle. She, however, actually survived, and the ambulance got her to a hospital in Trenton, New Jersey. But she wound up passing away. She had a skull fracture, and her injuries were pretty severe, and she died on May 31st. So she's actually buried at a St. James Episcopal Church, which is at the corner of Walnut and Cedar Street in Bristol, Pennsylvania. And they've actually never seen, many people haven't seen her, but some strange encounters have actually happened. And the first one happened about 10 years later after the accident. So this guy was driving along the road late at night, which is when she does appear, is apparently at that time. And he claimed to see a young woman dressed in a pink gown sort of walking aimlessly along the road. And since it was late at night and the road was fairly isolated, he felt the right thing to do would be to stop. So he went to go stop, and he was looking for a place. And when he looked back, she was gone. So he thought, oh man, maybe she fell, she slipped or whatever. So he went looking around, and couldn't find any sign of her. He got a really weird feeling, and he decided he just needed to get out of there, and he just had no idea what happened. Not long after, a second incident happened where a trucker was doing a late night run down the same road. He saw a woman walking alongside the road dressed in a pink gown, and just looked so out of place. He just decided, I'm going to stop, and he offered the young woman a ride. She gratefully accepted the ride, although she didn't say much beyond that she wanted to be taken to a house on Radcliffe Avenue in town. After a short drive, they wound out arriving at the destination, but to his surprise, she refused to get out of the cab of the truck. So he decided to go up to the door and knock on it, and an old man came to the door, sort of disheveled and sleepy because of how late it was. And the trucker explained that a woman claiming to be the old man's daughter was refusing to get out of the cab of his truck. This shocked the old man, of course, and he said, it can't be possible because my daughter was killed in a car accident in 1935. Here, it turned out that he was this Gertrude Louise's father. And they went to the truck because the truck driver wanted to prove to the old man that he wasn't messing around with him, and the cab was empty, but it looked as though someone had just recently left the vehicle. So there was another one, a story that went along. There was a farmhouse right along that road, and it was a family there with a number of daughters, and it seemed like somebody was trying to break into one of the upstairs rooms. And the daughters panicked. They ran downstairs, called the police, and the oldest daughter was looking out the window and saw this woman in a sopping wet pink dress, looked like a prom dress. And she was calling the cops and said, I'm calling the cops. And the girl said, go ahead, not going to matter, and then just disappeared, like vanished. So it was pretty weird stuff with this story. And they also said sometimes you will see a woman in pink dancing on Van Sciver Lake. And there was a gentleman that actually wrote this book and put all these stories together. His name is Christopher Wolfe. He and his wife went out to these different sites, and apparently he was taking all kinds of pictures of the lake, and they had gone to St. James Episcopal Church and the Bordentown Road and all these different places that sort of had something to do with this. And they never found the grave, but I went on find the grave and was actually able to get a picture up here of the grave for Gertrude Louise. And she was buried in the Spring family's area. We've seen that when we've done graveyards or cemeteries before. They sort of have an area that's just for that family that they've bought, and she's buried in there. And he was taking pictures, and he took a whole slew of pictures and then decided to take one more. And he said, lo and behold, like none of the other pictures had anything in them, no orbs, no weirdness, anything like that. The last one, though, had like a pink mist in the center of the picture. Maybe it was just something went kaflooey with the camera or whatever, but they always talk about her wearing this pink dress. So it's an odd story. It had to freak the people out that did see it. It doesn't sound like it's often that she's seen, but it does happen. But this is the story of Midnight Mary, also known as Gertrude Louise Spring, and the haunting of the lady that dances on the lake, then walks along this Bordentown Road. It's a pretty cool story, unique, another one of these weird haunted history stories. But as always, I want to say thank you for coming along. I hope you enjoyed this, and as always, we'll see you all about town.